In the quiet suburban neighborhood of Guilford, New York, the morning sun cast a golden glow upon the houses perched along the manicured streets. But on that fateful day, the tranquility of this idyllic community was shattered by a shocking discovery that would leave the residents reeling for years to come. As the firefighters arrived at the Franklin residence, their senses were immediately assaulted by a dense cloud of smoke billowing from the charred remains of the once cheerful home. Amidst the chaos, a somber silence enveloped the onlookers, their hearts heavy with an uneasy anticipation of what lay hidden within. The scene that greeted the investigators brought forth gasps of horror and disbelief. Amongst the ruins, the lifeless body of 16-year-old Jeffrey Franklin lay still, like a forgotten doll tossed aside after playtime. His innocent features, frozen in eternal slumber, bore no trace of the cruel fate that had befallen him. The sight was a haunting tableau etched into the memory of all those who bore witness to it. How could such a tragedy occur in this supposed haven of peace? The merciless hands of fate had snatched away a young life, leaving behind only questions and sorrow. Speculation swirled like leaves caught in a tempestuous wind, as the truth behind Jeffrey's demise began to surface. The narrative that emerged was a horrifying tale of betrayal. Jeffrey's adoption, a glimmer of hope in his troubled childhood, now served as a tragic turning point in his life. The sinister web that enshrouded this young boy began to unravel, revealing a twisted plot that defied comprehension. From the ashes of the fire, a sinister plan unfolded. The fire that had claimed Jeffrey's life was merely a smokescreen concealing a shocking truth. It wasn't a tragic accident that had stolen Jeffrey's future. It was something far more sinister. The investigation that followed would delve deep into the darkness that lurked within the walls of the Franklin home, unearthing secrets that would shake the foundation of the neighborhood to its core. As the discovery sent shockwaves through the district, the echoes of Jeffrey's tragic betrayal left an indelible mark. The residents of Guilford now faced a difficult truth, that sometimes, even behind the seemingly idyllic facades, darkness could find its way in. In the wake of this horrifying revelation, the search for justice began, and the community rallied together in a quest for answers. Hello and welcome to another episode of Crime Chronicle. I'm your host, Kevin. Today's case was a bit difficult to research due to another Jeffrey Franklin case that is completely unrelated to this one, and was also in the news around the same time due to the subject being up for parole. I plan to cover that one as well in a future video, but for now, let's dive into this tragic betrayal of this Jeffrey Franklin. Jeffrey Franklin's troubled childhood took a promising turn when he found himself on the path to adoption. See, Jeffrey was special needs, being both deaf and autistic. It was going to take a very special couple to take care of him. It was a glimmer of hope in an otherwise bleak existence. The adoption process was like a ray of sunshine breaking through the storm clouds that had followed him for so long. The day Jeffrey met his prospective adoptive parents, Ernest and Heather Franklin, was like stepping into a world of endless possibilities. The couple's warm smiles and open arms made him feel like he belonged, like he finally had a place to call home. It was as if he had stumbled upon a hidden treasure, waiting to be discovered. Ernest and Heather Franklin were like two puzzle pieces that fit perfectly together. Their love for each other was palpable, radiating from their every interaction. They had hearts as big as the ocean, ready to embrace Jeffrey and give him the love and stability he had always yearned for. It was a picture-perfect scene, like a masterpiece painted by a skilled artist. As the adoption process progressed, Jeffrey's anticipation grew. He imagined a life filled with laughter, love, and endless possibilities. It was like standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to take a leap of faith into a world of happiness and security. The promise of a brighter future was within his grasp, and he held on to it with all his might. The day the adoption was finalized was like a celebration of life itself. It was a moment of triumph, a victory over the darkness that had plagued Jeffrey's past. The courtroom was filled with joy and excitement, like a symphony of happiness playing in the air. Jeffrey's heart swelled with gratitude as he looked into the eyes of his new parents, knowing that he was finally safe. Little did Jeffrey know that this promising adoption would soon turn into a nightmare. The betrayal that awaited him was unimaginable. Like a thunderstorm on a clear summer day, the very people who had promised to protect and love him would be the ones responsible for his tragic demise. The shadows were about to engulf the light, and Jeffrey's life would never be the same again. As the investigation into Jeffrey Franklin's death unfolded, a sinister plan was unveiled, shattering the initial belief that the fire had caused his demise. The truth was far more chilling and disturbing than anyone could have imagined. The authorities discovered that Jeffrey's death was not accidental, but a deliberate act of murder. The fire that engulfed the house was merely a cover-up, concealing the heinous crime committed against this innocent child. The subsequent investigation delved into the dark corners of Jeffrey's adoptive parents' lives, Ernest and Heather Franklin. The evidence against them was damning, painting a picture of a couple driven by a sinister motive. It was a motive that defied comprehension, a betrayal of the trust placed upon them as parents. The details of their plan were as chilling as they were calculated. It was discovered that Ernest and Heather had deliberately delayed and misled the firefighters, ensuring that Jeffrey's chances of survival were slim to none, even though Jeffrey was already dead. Their actions were a deliberate attempt to ensure his demise, a betrayal of the most heinous kind. As the investigation progressed, the weight of the evidence against the guilty parents grew. The once promising adoption had turned into a nightmare, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. The Franklins' neighbors only believed them to be truly grieving their loss, and one neighbor, Dominic Gildersleeve, organized a GoFundMe to aid the family. Mr. Gildersleeve had already been assisting the family by taking in their many animals after the fire. The GoFundMe raised $11,000, which he gave to the Franklins just before they were arrested. The arrest of Ernest and Heather Franklin stunned their neighbors as the reality of their crimes sank in. They were charged with the murder of their own child, a crime that defied all reason and humanity. The sinister plan that unfolded in the Jeffrey Franklin murder case was a tragic betrayal of the highest order. It revealed the depths of human depravity and the devastating consequences it can have on innocent lives. The community was left grappling with the aftermath, forever scarred by the sinister plan that had been unveiled. Ernest and Heather Franklin, the adoptive parents of Jeffrey Franklin, were the central figures in this tragic betrayal. As the investigation unfolded, the evidence against them became increasingly damning, revealing a chilling motive for their son's murder. To understand the depth of their guilt, one must delve into the twisted psyche of these individuals. Ernest, a man with a dark past, had always harbored a deep resentment towards Jeffrey. The young boy's presence in their lives was a constant reminder of their own failures as parents. Heather, on the other hand, was driven by a toxic mix of jealousy and insecurity. She saw Jeffrey as a threat to her relationship with Ernest, fearing that he would always come between them, and having just discovered she was pregnant, the couple were now confronted with the real child they had failed to have for so many years, which is why they adopted. After watching the film Manchester by the Sea, they formulated their plan. Their motive for murder was as sinister as it was heart-wrenching. They wanted to rid themselves of the burden that Jeffrey had become, to erase any trace of his existence from their lives. After all, he wasn't their real child, and they soon would have one. It was a cold and calculated plan. The evidence against Ernest and Heather was overwhelming. Witnesses testified to their neglect and abuse, painting a vivid picture of the torment Jeffrey endured at their hands. The investigators uncovered a web of deceit and manipulation, revealing the deliberate actions taken by the guilty parents to ensure Jeffrey's demise. They had intentionally delayed the firefighters' arrival, knowing full well that every passing second brought Jeffrey closer to his tragic end. Their callousness and disregard for a human life were truly unfathomable. It was a betrayal of the highest order, a betrayal of the very essence of parenthood. How could parents, the very people entrusted with the care and protection of their child, commit such a heinous act? The tragedy of Jeffrey Franklin's murder shook the foundations of trust and shattered the illusion of safety within the neighborhood. The guilt of Ernest and Heather Franklin was undeniable. Their motive, their actions, and the pain they inflicted on the innocent child painted a chilling portrait of their depravity. The Jeffrey Franklin murder case would forever serve as a reminder of the depths to which some individuals can sink, and the tragic consequences that follow in their wake. Ernest did the dirty work. He allegedly put Jeffrey into a state of near death, himself not knowing he had actually done the full job and that Jeffrey would never be getting up again. Heather, on the other hand, had made sure that she was gone from the house during this whole process. She made the excuse that she had left to go get Benadryl, but records show that she had actually just been driving around for the extended amount of time. Ernest would then light the wood stove and leave, giving the excuse to the authorities that he was chasing after one of the family pets. They would soon meet up with authorities outside as the flames engulfed their trailer. As the flames engulfed the house, Ernest and Heather Franklin stood outside, their faces twisted with a mixture of fear and anticipation. They knew what they had done, and now they had to ensure that their dark secret would remain hidden forever. With every passing second, their plan was set into motion, a deliberate delay that would seal their adopted son's tragic fate. The firefighters arrived, their sirens blaring, ready to battle the raging inferno. But little did they know that the Franklins had orchestrated a web of deception. Ernest, a man of meticulous planning, had strategically placed obstacles in the path of the firefighters, hindering their progress. He had blocked the entrance to Jeffrey's room with heavy furniture, making it nearly impossible for the rescuers to reach him in time. Meanwhile, Heather, a master manipulator, feigned panic and confusion, distracting the firefighters with her desperate pleas for help. She knew that every second counted, and she used her acting skills to buy the precious time they needed. The firefighters, unaware of the sinister plot unfolding before their eyes, were unwittingly falling into the Franklins' trap. As the minutes turned into agonizing hours, the flames continued to devour the house, and Jeffrey's chances of survival dwindled. The Franklins watched from a safe distance, their hearts pounding with a mix of guilt and excitement. They knew that their plan was working and that their secret would soon be buried beneath the ashes of their home. Finally, when the firefighters managed to break through the obstacles and reach Jeffrey's room, it was too late. The young boy lay lifeless, his innocent face forever frozen in a mask of terror. The Franklins had succeeded in their twisted scheme, ensuring that Jeffrey would never reveal the truth about the abuse he had suffered at their hands. The deliberate delay had served its purpose, allowing the fire to consume all evidence of their heinous crime. The Franklins had meticulously planned every step, exploiting the chaos of the fire to cover their tracks. They had betrayed the trust of a vulnerable child, extinguishing his life in a blaze of cruelty. In the aftermath of the tragedy, the community would be left to grapple with the horrifying reality of what had transpired. But for now, the Franklins reveled in their victory, their dark secret hidden beneath the charred remains of their home. The deliberate delay had ensured that justice would be delayed, but it would not be denied. As the investigation into Jeffrey Franklin's murder intensified, the evidence against his adoptive parents, Ernest and Heather Franklin, became overwhelming. The authorities meticulously pieced together the puzzle, connecting the dots that would ultimately lead to their arrest. The arrest of Ernest and Heather Franklin was a moment of reckoning for the community. It was a stark reminder that evil can lurk behind closed doors, even in the most unsuspecting places. The news spread like wildfire, igniting a mix of shock, anger, and disbelief amongst the townspeople. The charges brought against the Franklins were as grave as the crime itself. They were accused of first-degree murder, arson, and child endangerment. The weight of these charges hung heavy in the air, casting a dark shadow over the once peaceful neighborhood. The courtroom became the stage for the unfolding drama. As the trial commenced, the prosecution presented a compelling case, meticulously outlining the evidence against the accused. Witnesses took the stand, recounting the chilling details of Jeffrey's final moments and the Franklins' alleged involvement. The defense, on the other hand, fought tooth and nail to cast doubt on the prosecution's case. They painted a picture of a loving and caring couple, arguing that the evidence was circumstantial at best. But the jury remained unmoved, captivated by the prosecution's narrative of betrayal and deceit. The trial lasted for weeks, each day filled with emotional testimonies and gripping revelations. And finally, after a long and arduous process, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Ernest and Heather Franklin were found guilty on all charges. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and sorrow. The weight of the tragedy had been acknowledged. The arrest and subsequent conviction of the Franklins marked a turning point in the Jeffrey Franklin murder case. It was a testament to the tireless efforts of law enforcement and the unwavering pursuit of justice. But it also served as a chilling reminder that evil can exist in the most unexpected places, leaving scars that may never fully heal. The news of Jeffrey Franklin's tragic murder sent shockwaves through the tight-knit community. As the details of the case unfolded, neighbors and friends rallied together, determined to support one another in the face of such a devastating betrayal. In the tragic case of the Jeffrey Franklin murder, a heart-wrenching betrayal unfolded. The shocking discovery of Jeffrey's murder rippled through the town, unraveling a disturbing narrative that no one could have anticipated. Jeffrey's adoption was meant to mark a turning point in his troubled childhood, offering him a promising future filled with love and stability. However, the sinister plan that was unveiled shattered any hope of a happy ending. It was revealed that Jeffrey's death was not caused by the fire that engulfed his home, but rather a deliberate act of violence. The evidence against Ernest and Heather Franklin, Jeffrey's adopted parents, was overwhelming. Their motive for his murder was rooted in a twisted web of deceit and cruelty. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that they had orchestrated a deliberate delay, ensuring that firefighters would be unable to save Jeffrey in time. Their actions were calculated and cold-hearted, betraying the trust and love that Jeffrey had placed in them. The arrest of Ernest and Heather Franklin brought some semblance of justice to the devastated community. They faced charges for the heinous crime they had committed, and the weight of their guilt was palpable. The people, once united in their shock and grief, rallied together to support one another and seek justice for Jeffrey. In the aftermath of the shocking Jeffrey Franklin murder case, the story took an unexpected turn. In 2017, while awaiting trial, Heather Franklin gave birth to a baby boy. It was a surreal moment, a flicker of hope against the darkness that surrounded this tragedy. Yet this child's arrival only served to underscore the tangled web of betrayal and deceit that engulfed the Franklin family. As the courtroom drama unfolded, Ernest and Heather's paths diverged. Ernest staunchly maintained his innocence, pleading not guilty to the charges that had been leveled against him. However, the jury saw through his facade and delivered a guilty verdict for murder. Their decision was bolstered by convictions on charges of arson and tampering with physical evidence. Ernest Franklin was sentenced to life in prison. The echoes of the judge's words reverberated through the courtroom, sealing Ernest's fate within the confines of Attica Correctional Facility. He faces the daunting prospect of serving a minimum of 21 years before being eligible for parole in 2038. Meanwhile, Heather chose a different path. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, she made the difficult decision to plea bargain. In this haunting chapter of the Franklin saga, she admitted to having knowledge of Ernest's actions on that fateful day, as well as her own involvement. She pleaded guilty to charges of arson, tampering with physical evidence, and manslaughter. Her plea deal resulted in a maximum sentence of 7 years in prison. Heather now resides in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for Women, where she will have the chance to seek parole in 2025. As for the innocent child caught in the whirlwind, he finds solace and care in the embrace of his grandparents. Their love and guidance will undoubtedly play a pivotal role in shaping his future, while forever lamenting over the tragic betrayal that tainted his parents' lives. The story of Ernest and Heather Franklin's sentencing reverberates as a chilling testament to the depths of human darkness and the enduring search for justice. The Jeffrey Franklin murder case serves as a chilling reminder of the depths of human betrayal. It is a story of innocence lost, trust shattered, and a township forever scarred by the actions of two individuals. The tragic betrayal that unfolded in this case will forever haunt the memories of those who witnessed it, serving as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. Jeffrey was described as a sweet, bright soul. He liked watching 3D movies, loved cartoons as a child. He loved his Super Mario Bros. Costume. In fact, he had apparently worn his mustache from that Super Mario Bros. Costume to school for a solid month. He liked trains and had a toy train set. He hadn't really thought about what he wanted to do when he grew up, and unfortunately, he'll never get the chance. All because his parents, the ones that were supposed to love and protect him unconditionally, the ones that were supposed to guide him to the next stages of his life, the ones that were supposed to be responsible for his care, simply didn't want to handle him anymore. He was now an obstacle to them, and they had to get him out of the way. To them, unfortunately, all he was a placeholder until they were able to finally have a child of their own. They were truly disgusting people. May Jeffrey's memory be a beacon of hope, inspiring us to protect and cherish the most vulnerable among us. Thank you for watching Crime Chronicle. If you appreciate what I do here, then please hit that like button. If you're interested in future uploads from the channel, including shorts, then why not consider subscribing? And while you're there, why not hit that bell to be notified whenever a video goes live? I put out new long-form videos bi-weekly and have new shorts up every other day. If you're interested in checking out more from my channel, then YouTube thinks that you'll like this video that I'm definitely pointing to right here. Again, I have been your host, Kevin. This has been Crime Chronicle, and you stay safe out there.